It seems to me, first of all, from what I understand from doctors, that's really rare. If it's a legitimate rape, the female body has ways to try to shut that whole thing down.
And when it comes to establishing your worldview, I was curious, what newspapers and magazines did you regularly read before you were tapped for this to stay informed and to understand the world?
I've read most of them, again, with a great appreciation for the press, for the media.
But like what ones specifically, I'm curious that you...
all of them, any of them that have...
Can demonic spirits attach themselves to inanimate objects? The answer is yes.
Welcome to Twatwaffle of the Week. Just a reminder before we continue. My inclusion of a story doesn't necessarily mean I endorse the content or the interpretation presented by the author. Contrary to opinion, while I have been labeled a liberal, okay, I've been labeled many things, I don't claim to be one. All I know is that I am definitely left of those in the Reich. So, my inclusion of a story is primarily to get people to think about how certain actions or inactions can be interpreted and to explore what their justification for agreement or disagreement for such is. In other words, we may disagree, but how you justify your opinion says much. The same holds true for myself. Is my justification for holding the opinion I have sound? Is it based in fact, or is it based in emotion? Take, for example, our first story of a recently passed piece of legislation. It's one I think needs to be watched for abuse. But yet, I've been told, numerous times, I'm being a libtard reactionist with an agenda.
SB 1085 HP 1111 is now law in Tennessee.
SB 1085 HB 1111 requires that any undefined words in Tennessee law be given their natural and ordinary meaning without forced or subtle construction that would limit or extend the meaning of the language. In other words, under this law, terms like husband, wife, mother, and father can only be interpreted as gender-specific under the law. As the article notes, further along, the Tennessee Attorney General recently issued an opinion stating that SB 1085 HB 1111 could force some Tennessee laws to conflict with the U.S. Supreme Court decision in Obergefell, which held that same-sex couples have a fundamental right to marry. According to David Badash at New Civil Rights Movement, the bill would effectively disenfranchise same-sex couples and women in areas including marriage and adoption, but easily might extend to property laws and other areas. And that's my concern. It's possible this bill won't do anything but what it says, but it's possible to be abused. So, in my mind, until proven otherwise, the Reich has basically created a money pit piece of legislation because of hate. Although odds are Liberty Counsel or ADF will make it their cash cow like they did Kim Davis. You see, if there's a loot to be hooked, the Reich will exploit it, and that is my concern. And it should be noted that many that oppose this bill have named it the LGBT erasure bill. I don't know if I would go quite that far, at least not yet, but it's something that, as I said, needs to be watched. Now, for comparison, this is not a piece of legislation. It is a SCOTUS ruling that has heavy implications.
Supreme Court rejects guilty until proven innocent. Says states cannot keep money from the innocent.
Quote, with so many constitutional rights under siege, it's welcome news when one of them is defended. Reaffirming the presumption of innocence, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down a Colorado law last month that forced criminal defendants to prove their innocence when the defendants' convictions were already overturned. As the court explained, absent those convictions, Colorado would have no legal right to exact and retain petitioners' funds. Not only is this decision a win for due process, the court's ruling in Nelson v. Colorado could have major ramifications for government shakedown schemes nationwide. Further along, fortunately, the U.S. Supreme Court in a 7-1 ruled Colorado's law was unconstitutional. Writing for the majority, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the Exoneration Act scheme does not comport with the 14th Amendment's guarantee of due process. Nelson and Madden are entitled to be presumed innocent and should not be saddled with any proof to regain what is rightfully theirs. As the author noted, and this is where my concern comes in, this has humongous ramifications concerning civil forfeiture, which has sadly become a funding source nationwide for many of our police departments. As Sabia notes, quote, according to the Institute for Justice, which he writes for, under civil forfeiture proceedings in over 30 states and on the federal level, the burden of proof is on the property owner, not the government. So when police seize someone's property, the owner must prove they did not know of or consent to their property being used for an alleged criminal activity. That turns the presumption of innocence straight on its head. Although civil forfeiture sounds like a clear-cut violation of many constitutional rights, courts have repeatedly upheld civil forfeiture schemes. As I said, civil forfeiture has been a huge issue, and it is definitely one that's in need of reform. The fact that the ruling was 7-1, to me, implies that reform is hopefully coming, although I suspect there will be pushback, especially in light of the recent memo by Jeff Sessions concerning the use of private prisons by the DOJ. And just to throw this out there for an FYI, Sessions will not gain financially from his recent policy decisions concerning the DOJ. So we can nix that before it blossoms. I really don't know if one can become worse than a Twatwaffle of the week. But damn it, some are surely trying. First up, we have good old Theodore Shoebat.
Killing fags should not be considered a hate crime.
This is from Right Wing Watch, and it's from earlier in the month, but I'm a little behind.
Fags kill each other all the time. And the reason why they kill each other all the time is because they're demon-possessed people, and Satan wants them to kill each other. Now, if someone kills a homosexual because they're homosexual, that should not be considered a hate crime. You know, and that's what that would lead to. If you say that killing a sodomite is a hate crime, then pretty soon it'll lead to labeling the killing of a pedophile as a hate crime. Because homosexuality is not something you're born with. It is a perversion. And so right when people start killing perverts, that shouldn't be a hate crime. This is all a way that the sodomites are using to normalize homosexuality, to make it something that is natural.
Now, some may wonder why I bother following Shoebat's antics. In the grand scheme of things, he's really nobody. Many fundamentalists brush him off as a loon, and in my opinion, rightly so. But one must not forget who his father is and the influence his father once had. Wally Shoebat, for those that don't know. While I don't think Junior will ever rise to such notoriety, basically a con artist, he's still dangerous when it comes to fomenting his notion of killing LGBTQI individuals. Another loon, and this one's a new one to me. While Mass Resistance is not a new organization to me concerning anti-LGBTQI issues, the name Sharon Armke is.
I did not realize the full agenda of the radical left.
I'm going to assume, for the sake of argument, that anarchy really means those of us that are LGBTQI. With that said, I really wish someone would please clue me into what this fucking agenda is. You can see the show notes because I've provided the URL of the actual gay agenda. Yes, I did just use air quotes. It's actually a satirical piece that's oft cited by those in the right as being real. It's important to note the brief introduction provided. It's really pretty sad. Oh, and I've been out for over 30 years. I still don't have a toaster. See the show notes for a bit of understanding.
They are in a war with Christ and Christians, whether we realize it or not. They are not content with society and Christians treating them with outreach, courtesy, and respect that should be given to any other human being just because they are human. They want us to approve their behavior. They will not stop until they dominate.
So, let me get this straight. Wanting some religiotard to not blow my brains out is fucking disrespectful. I think you got that backwards. What us LGBTQI folk want is not your approval, but the realization that you don't have superiority over common, everyday people who don't believe in the same manner you do.
They want us to say that what they are doing is right and good. Furthermore, they intend, and they are very successful so far in brainwashing our children to believe that sodomy is right and good.
Methinks Sharon here needs a dictionary, because she don't know the meaning of the word sodomy. Anal or oral sex, intercourse between human beings, male or female. So guess what there, Sharon? You giving your DH a blowjob, or he licking your pussy, is sodomy. Got that? Good.
We are trying to show parents what is happening to our children. And excuse me if I say this, we should be screaming bloody murder in the streets. Amen. We should be screaming bloody murder in the streets. This is not right. Those teachers that do this, that teach sodomy to little children, many people call them child abusers, and I agree.
Excuse me, please, but I knew when I was 5 I was different. Back in my day, homosexuality wasn't even talked about, so who the fuck brainwashed me? Billy Graham at one of his crusades? Ooh, maybe it was Jack Van Impe or Tony Campolo when I was in college. Oh, I know who it was. My 60-year-old Sunday school teacher, the pastor's wife. And just a little FYI for you, it really wasn't until the 2nd century AD that the, quote, sin of Sodom was fully equated to homosexuality. And that was in the writings of Josephus, where he connected the sin of Sodom with pederastia, basically love of boys from the Greek culture. And prior to him, it was Philo. And he was guilty of mythologizing the sin of Sodom as well. Prior to that, it referred to Sodom's inhospitality. If you'd like a little confirmation of that, might want to check out Ezekiel 16:49 through 50. The religious right baffles me. Religionists, not so much. Their belief basically acts as a drug. But those above the flock, even though I actually was studying to follow that path, confound me. How can their mind hold on to the cognitive dissonance they must have without cracking? Case in point, Dutch sheets.
Evil spirits are manifesting because Christians are experiencing a breakthrough under Trump.
I heard the Lord very clearly speak to me several weeks ago and said, be ready. Demons, principalities, powers, the spiritual realm of darkness is about to start manifesting. They are angry because they know we have moved into a season, we the church, well, in the earth, but we as believers have moved into a season where we can experience great breakthrough. In fact, some of the breakthroughs that we have been crying out for and interceding for years, maybe decades, we are in a season where we can experience the fullness of that breakthrough. For example, the Supreme Court. Evil spirits are upset.
Seriously, folks, when it's something not understood or beyond their narrow-minded worldview, they blame the devil and or his minions. Clinging Schmidt is another good example of that. So, try as I might, and this is for you, Bridget, what would a twat episode be without nutjob extraordinaire Alex Jones?
Alex Jones claims intelligence officials belong to secret leather daddy club.
I'm sorry, I'm starting to laugh. I spent a couple hours looking for this clip, listening to, maybe 3 hours worth of Alex Jones in one sitting. So I hope you appreciate this. While there was a clip through Media Matters, I wanted the actual clip right from Jones. And I found it.
I want to raise this question, though. Why is it that General Mattis, General McMaster, John Brennan, formerly of the CIA, Michael Hayden, former of the CIA, and James Clapper, why do these guys all have shaved heads?
Because that's part of being a leather daddy.
Is it some secret club or something that they're in? I mean, it is just, it defies, the odds of coincidence that every one of these guys have the same kind of look. There it is. Extraordinary. By the way, his smirk at the end of this kind of gives the whole thing away.
It looks like you could suck a golf ball through a garden hose.
These two, Stone and Jones, are individuals that really want to be taken seriously. Now, I want you to think about it, especially considering the backlash that Anderson Cooper just took concerning his eye roll at Conway and then his pile of shit comment with some Trump minion. I mean, it's just been horrendous. Personally, the pile of shit comment, I loved. Look it up. It's funny. I was going to continue, but I think this episode's long enough. So, for some levity, to close, I'm going to give you Stephen Colbert.
Tuck Bookford willingly issues a forced apology.
Now, sadly, I can't include any audio as it's from his TV show, but of course the URL is in the notes. Oh, and Jones has issued a response, although I am a bit confused about the timeline. If you remember, according to the New York Times, Jones issued an apology to Chobani on May 17th. At least that's how I interpret it. Colbert's YouTube posting is dated the 20th, as is Jones's response. But Jones states in the beginning that he just filed papers against Chobani to prevent the destruction of papers as well as the settlement papers. So this sounds like this video came out pre-apology. So I'm going to assume there's some type of lag between postings and when this all occurred from a legal standpoint. It's still funny regardless of how it works out. I will be honest, after listening to Jones all morning trying to find that one clip, I couldn't get past the 5-minute mark on this one. It sounds as if Jones is just digging a deeper hole for himself. I could be wrong. I'm going to try to listen to this tomorrow just to see. So if any more develops, I will just have to add it to my next installment. Peace out, y'all. have a good day, and night, and morning, whatever time you listen to this.